like it calls my name. Through the mist and fire I feel no shame. The night is heavy, but the stars they glow. A map of dreams to the place I'll go. Blossom with the stars, they guide my hand. They show me the power to take my stand. Through every storm, through every flame. Blossom with the stars, I'll never be the same.
Great day, everyone. I was just having a conversation with my mom, who taught me astrology, and we got out the astrology chart, and I went, "Oh my God," because there are literally so many challenging aspects happening right now affecting all of us that I had to jump on here. As you know, I'm Lotus Dawn. This is Blossom with the Stars. I do True the Stars sidereal astrology that is based on the actual constellations in the sky. And so tonight, I wanted to dive into some of the biggest challenging energetics I'm perceiving happening with the stars and the planets, some rough astrological weather, if you will, and give you the heads up so you know whether to pack an umbrella or a snack, or maybe take a few days off. So, what we have going on in a nutshell, before we dive into all of the details, is that there are currently 4 major planets that are retrograde. When a planet is retrograde, it tends to reflect the energetic of things from the past coming up to the surface to be acknowledged, to be dealt with. It's a little bit like how we tend to all have a drawer that we never go through, or a closet that's got a lot of stuff sitting in it, or a car with stuff we need to clean out, or a whole storage locker full of stuff. And we tend to put it off and put it off, and we know we need to deal with it. We know we need to go through that stuff and address it, but we put it off. And so what happens when planets go retrograde is that things in our outer life, people, places, events, circumstances, will occur when planets are retrograde that cause the energy to slow down, and all of a sudden we end up at that storage locker or with that pile of stuff, and we're sort of confronted with it. Oh my gosh, I have to go through this now. Whether it's suddenly having to move, or finding out that in order to get something you need, you have to deal with this past other thing. And so when a lot of planets are retrograde in the collective, it can mean about past energy, past events, past relationships can come up to the surface. When so many planets are retrograde, it's very probable that past relationships, whether romantic, friendships, family members, that were unresolved, those energies can come up. And then if we look at it at a more global level, like countries, past conflicts that countries have had with their neighbors, unresolved issues can come up to the surface, and they need to be addressed and they need to be resolved. Additionally, when a planet is retrograde, we tend to feel more internal, and it's almost as if denser, because there's a lot more energy from the past of unresolved stuff that begins to come up to the surface for us to feel and thus to heal. And I was feeling that energy today. Wow, I was like, gosh, so much of my stuff is coming up to the surface all at once. And it's a lot, right? It's a lot to hold. It's a lot to handle. And so I wanted to dive into the specifics of which planets are retrograde. And not only are they retrograde, which means a lot of stuff is being brought up to the surface, but all 4 planets, Neptune is retrograde, Saturn is retrograde, Pluto is retrograde, and Chiron is retrograde. And every single one of those retrograde planets is actually in a polarity or an opposition to another planet that is not retrograde. So I'll go over what this means, but we have Pluto, the god of the underworld, the god of hidden things, retrograde. opposite Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion. It's the planet of the millionaire. And so when they're in polarity, we may find that our luck is a little tricky because we have to face or confront some deeper stuff in order to get forward momentum. Then we have Saturn, which is the planet of government. It's the planet of structure. And it's in the sign of Pisces, which is the sign of spirituality and religion. And Saturn can be restriction, it can be limitation, it can be discipline. It can be very challenging. Saturn is lessons that need to be learned. And we have all of these conflicts occurring because of religion, because of spiritual beliefs. And that's further accentuated by the fact that Chiron, the wounded healer, which represents the greatest wound of the collective, is in Pisces as well, the sign of religion, directly opposite from Mars, which can be the planet of violence, anger, and aggression. So I just want to make this public service announcement. The energetic is very triggering right now, and you may be having more than the average amount of stuff brought up in you, in your friends, your family, the collective. I've been hearing about families having conflicts and friends conflicts and relationships. And so if you're feeling that, and this was my aha moment, just please know you're not alone. And there's actually a bigger universal or galactic process occurring for everyone. And so everyone's stuff is being brought up to the surface. And so when that happens, it's really, really important to be especially kind to each other. And maybe at this point in time, we more need a hug than advice. Maybe we more just need to love each other than we need to hear what we need to do or don't do, right? Maybe we just need kindness right now. So let's go check this out. I'll share the chart and I can show you in greater depth. And please feel free to share in the chat if you are having stuff come up, you're noticing things. I love to know what is happening in the collective so that we can sort of realize, hey, we're not alone in this. This is something that is happening across the planet, and that as we bring our awareness to it, we can start to heal it. It's very powerful. So, what is going on tonight, astrologically, energetically, that may be affecting you, may be affecting a friend or a family member? And what does it mean astrologically? So, we have Pluto, like I said, the planet of the deep hidden mystery, the things that are hidden. It's actually in Capricorn. And Capricorn is the sign of the government. And it's retrograde, which means that it is going to be dealing with things from the past related to the government. Okay. And actually, Pluto is in the same sign and about 1 degree away from where it was at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So this is big. And we're going to have this Pluto and Capricorn for 13 years. And so what it really represents is the complete restructuring of the government. It is the complete restructuring of structure as we know it. Governments, businesses, authority. How this might be showing up in our individual lives is that we may be finding that how we play the boss role, how we're an authority in our life, we're restructuring that. So if we run a business, there could be a lot of transformation happening at that level. Now, not only is Pluto retrograde and in Capricorn, but it is also currently directly opposite Gemini. And Gemini is very different energy from Pluto, where Pluto is all about deep, intense transformation, change, inner work, the subconscious. Pardon me while I get this to move for us. Okay. What Jupiter is all about. Jupiter is all about expansion. It is all about the millionaire energy. So Jupiter is someone who's a philanthropist. It expands energy, it's opportunity, it's fortune, it's luck. I love Jupiter energy. It's all about growth, right? It's all about people who are very wealthy that we get to meet. It's about those windfalls of opportunities that come our way and we're like, yes, that was so cool. And so Jupiter is really great to have on deck. But when Jupiter, which is expansion and opportunity and learning and growth, it's also known as the king of the gods. So it can represent people in power. When Jupiter is in polarity or opposition to Pluto, which is the planet of great change and transformation and depth and intensity, we may be finding that in order to have these windfalls or these positive inflows of wealth and abundance or opportunities of expansion, we have to go through some kind of transformational process. We may have to restructure something energetically, emotionally, or even physically, right? And so Pluto in Capricorn can represent the bone system. And so people may be finding, challenges with the bones or the teeth and having to do some sort of deep healing work. Or in their life, the structure of their life is something they haven't addressed in a long time. And so, in order to get that growth and that forward momentum, they're going to have to dive deep into the structure of their emotional body, spiritual body, or physical body. And, I'm there with you. I tend to put off stuff that doesn't have to get done so that I can do the present work. But when this planet of expansion is totally opposite Pluto, the planet of deep intensity and transformation, well, we're not as much given that option. It's kind of like, okay, if you want to have the growth forwards, you're going to have to face the inner work, right? Because Pluto is the shadow. Pluto is the inner stuff. It's the unconscious. And just like I don't always want to confront that stuff that's deep and hidden and intense, right? We tend to want to run away, right? Or put it off or avoid it because it's so intense. But if you want to have that wealth and you want to have those opportunities and that abundance, that is the path through to create the opportunities. Okay. So that's one thing. We have Pluto opposite Jupiter. And then we have this whole other lineup of challenging stuff. We have Saturn, which is the planet of structure. So Capricorn, what Pluto is in, is the sign of structure. And Saturn is the ruling planet of Capricorn, and it is in Pisces. And so there's all this stuff around government and religion, right? There's, a lot more prayer in our current government in the US. There are a lot more activities or issues with religious persecution happening or religious challenges. And one of the reasons for that, religious violence, is because Chiron, the wounded healer, is directly opposite Mars. And so Chiron is the deepest wounding of the collective, and it's in Pisces, 36 degrees of Pisces. And so, some of us have 36 degrees of Pisces at very important places in our astrology charts. And so for those of us going through that, my heart goes out to you because that means that very deep stuff. Chiron always represents past life trauma, where there was some kind of a death, a loss, a heartbreak, a wound that you may have carried for several lifetimes. When it's in Pisces, that could relate to traumas where you were hurt because of your intuition, right? You were a great healer and you were killed for your gifts that you gave. Or maybe you were a spiritual teacher or a religious lecturer and your religion was not allowed at the time, and so you were persecuted or killed. And so in the collective, this trauma is being brought up, it's being triggered to be cleared. That's what the planetary bodies, when they go into challenging aspects, they're actually here to do us a favor. They're actually here to assist us to get through to a better place and a better space. But we often don't slow down enough to do the work, to do the clearing, to get the healing. And so Chiron right now, there we have it in Pisces, is directly opposite two planets now. So it's not only opposite to Mars, which is the planet of aggression, anger. On the positive side, of course, it can be the energy to get things done. It can be leadership energy. It can be action energy. I love Mars energy, right? We love leadership energy. But the dark side of Mars can be anger or aggression or losing your temper. And it's directly opposite Chiron, the wounded healer. And it's interesting because we've not only been having an increase in religious issues, but we've been having violence with religious stuff happening. For instance, the horrible shooting of Charlie Kirk. And if you've watched my earlier videos, you'll know that I did his astrology chart on the day he got shot because I was so in shock that it had happened. I was just trying to find some, like, what's going on here, even though there's really no explanation for someone when someone is killed, right? But I found that he had, on the day he was shot, Mars was 29 degrees of Virgo. And his birthday, October 14th, lined up to exactly 29 degrees of Virgo. And it was directly opposite Chiron. And my eyes about bugged out of my head when I saw this because Mars, right, can be violence. Chiron, opposite Chiron, the wound is spiritual. It's religious with Pisces. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is just crazy. And then yesterday with someone running their car into a church, killing 6 people. So I wanted to make this video because I wanted to really address the intensity of what a Chiron retrograde in Pisces wound might be bringing up for people. So if anyone had trauma with religion, trauma with persecution from this lifetime or any other, that wounding is going to be coming up big time. And the fact that it's opposite Mars is increasing the level of anger or aggression or people making the decision that they want to act on that anger or that aggression. And so I really want to urge all of you to work on tempering your responses to stuff right now. And instead of reacting, see if you can work on responding and noticing, because the more we can slow down our reaction to what gets triggered right now, we are going to have more space to create more peace in our inner relationship and our relationships with other people. But it's really a lot because not only do we have Chiron in Pisces opposite Mars, we also have 2 other planets in Pisces, well, 3 really, Saturn and Neptune, and this is an asteroid known as Ceres, which relates to nurturing or the mother. And it's directly opposite the sun, right? So we just had the sun enter Virgo. Well, not just, it was several days back now, around September 13th. But the sun is 14 degrees of Virgo today. Conjunct the vertex point. Vertex can mean a point of fate, a point of happening. Something happens this day, something powerful, something magnetic, and it will increase as we go forwards in the next couple of days. Vertex is known as a point of fate. But we have the vertex and the sun directly opposite Saturn and Neptune. Saturn can be restriction. Saturn and the sun are not the best of friends. Okay, I want you to imagine for a moment. Let's talk about Saturn and the sun. Sun dynamic, the sun archetype would be like a 5-year-old child. In Virgo, it would be a very clean, very organized, lover of animals, love helping people, just have the best time ever, right? Saturn is more like the grandfather or the father energy that comes in and says, you need to pick up your toys, you need to get clean, you need to get organized, you need to go to bed at this time, you need to get up at this time, and then your life will be wonderful. It's good, but there's such different energies. The sun wants to express. The sun wants to shine. The sun wants to play, right? And in the sign of Virgo, maybe the way you like to play is through helping other people or playing out in the garden or playing with the animals. It's a very much a helper-oriented sign. But when it's opposite Saturn and Neptune, there's a little bit of a sense of restriction, and those are both retrograde planets. Now, the sun is going to be moving towards an opposition to Chiron, the wounded healer. And in fact, that means that we will not only have the sun, but we will have Mars and Mercury as well. So there's all these planets that are opposing Chiron, the wounded healer. So it's not just that we have Chiron in Pisces, the wounded healer, which can mean that trauma with religion, spirituality, our connection to God, our connection to something higher is opposite Saturn, the planet of restriction and structure and discipline. So we might feel a little restricted. We want to expand, we want to grow, but when we have so many planets retrograde, and then on top of the retrograde, they're in polarity. So remember what we shared already. We have Saturn and Neptune, Chiron and Pluto all retrograde. We have Pluto opposite Jupiter. We have, which means great depth versus expansion. And it's like two sides of the same coin. And so at the same time we want to expand, this other planet's saying, hey, but you got to go within. Then we have Saturn, which is structure and discipline, in Pisces, which is religion, opposite the sun in Virgo, which is physicality, giving, helping, and sharing with others. Then we have Chiron, the wounded healer, opposite Mars, which is the great wound, being agitated or activated by the Mars energy. So I got on here tonight because I saw how many challenging aspects there are happening right now. And I also noticed that there's a really interesting lineup of the planets and the stars that I thought was actually kind of beautiful. And it felt to me like a sense of fatedness in the collective. So you might be tuning into this. You might be sensing, gosh, there just seems to be a lot of energy right now. And so what I noticed is that Mars, Mercury, and the Sun all in Virgo, Venus in Leo, Jupiter in Gemini, and Uranus in Taurus. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 planets basically in a lineup across the sky. And when planets come together like that, I often call it like a superhero lineup, like a gathering, like a gathering of forces. And so what forces have gathered? Well, Uranus is the planet of change. And right now it's conjunct the Pleiades, which is just beautiful and powerful. And Uranus is also retrograde. Uranus relates to change, unexpected happenings. And when Uranus goes retrograde, anything can happen. You might get a notice that this is changing or that's changing, and it's all unexpected. In the sign of Taurus, it's the land. And so people might be getting notice that they have to move. Land things could be shifting or changing. But here's the good news. Uranus retrograde means that whatever happens during this retrograde period, and it will end in the next couple months, it's not necessarily something that's real, if that makes sense. You're finishing old business, but I wouldn't make a big decision between now and when it goes direct, which is in November, because you're finishing up old stuff. And so the things that happen, like if couples break up or, you have to move, it may not be as solid or set in stone as it may appear to be. And the reason for that is that Uranus is all about unexpected happenings. And when it's retrograde, it means that we may not be clear on why it's happening, right? It's not like set in stone at all, right? So things may shift a lot. Then we also have Jupiter over here in Gemini. And this is interesting because Gemini is the media. And we already talked about the fact that Jupiter is opposite Pluto, Pluto being the planet of transformation, depth, intensity, things that are hidden, things that have been buried. And so there's a lot of stuff being brought up to the surface through the media about people in power that is going to reveal things that have been kept secret and hidden in the government, as it's opposite Pluto in Capricorn, Capricorn being the government, Pluto being things that are hidden and secret and kept buried. Now, as we keep moving along here, we come to Venus in Leo, and that's another challenging thing we're dealing with because it's conjunct the south node of the moon, and the south node of the moon relates to the past. It relates to who we were. Venus is the billionaire planet. It represents our greatest wealth and our abundance. It's in the sign of Leo, which can relate to leadership. It can relate to kings and queens and people who are very big and bright and have a big presence, famous people. But when it's conjunct the south node, it means that things related to the past around great wealth, around great leadership, may come up to the surface and needs to be resolved. And so just like I said that Uranus, paying attention to the things that happen while Uranus is retrograde, might not be so dependable, the things that are happening with wealth and money while conjunct the south node may not also be as dependable. So it's a shaky time for the stock market and investment. You really want to be careful right now because the billionaire planet is opposite the destiny point. But in the same token, if you've been really, really working on your wealth and finances, this may be a time where you finally level up because the ships are finally coming in. So it really depends on, is this a future investment you're doing now? It's just beginning. It might not do so well. Or is this money that you've been working on achieving for a long time? And then the ships may come in. Then, as we keep moving forwards here, we come across the Sun, Mercury, and Mars all in Virgo. And that's where the focus on healthcare, on healing, on hospitals, we have this whole, argument or fight over should we shut down the hospital? The government shutdown, and there's all this talk about how it might cut Social Security and Medicare. And it's so interesting because Virgo is the sign of healthcare. It's the sign of healing. It's the sign of the body. And we have the sun, which is how we shine. We have Mercury, how we communicate. And we have Mars, the planet of energy, all in the sign of Virgo, which is health, which is healing, which is healthcare. And we see, and not only that, but these planets are all opposite a retrograde planet. So the sun is opposite Jupiter, excuse me. The sun is opposite Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, which is the sign of religion and spirituality. And so we have sort of this polarity axis between the material, physical, hospitals, healthcare, the government, and then the spiritual, religion and spirituality. And so the big main topics right now coming out in the news, of course, are relating to the medical field, right? What's going to happen with Medicare and Medi-Cal and health coverage? The government, Saturn, so potential shutdown, Saturn, of course, being retrograde. And then in Pisces, the sign of religion and spirituality, where we have had all of these sort of spiritual or religious traumas occurring because we have Mars also in Virgo, which is the body, opposite Pisces. And so over here, we'll go over to Pisces and we'll see that we have directly opposite Virgo, we have Saturn and Neptune. And both of them, wow, both Saturn and Neptune are retrograde. And not only that, but they are in the, and my mom asked me this. My mom, of course, taught me astrology. She said, are they in the tail of Cetus? And I said, they must be. And so Cetus is this really interesting figure or constellation directly underneath Pisces, the fish, right? And Cetus is known as the sea serpent or the sea monster. And the story goes that the princess Andromeda, here she is, was a beautiful princess who claimed to be more beautiful than the god of the seas, sea nymphs, and King Neptune, right? And so we have Neptune, the god of the sea, over here in the tail of Cetus. And so Neptune, here he is, he commanded Cetus, the sea monster, to come and demand Andromeda be taken from her village and fed to the sea monster to pay back for what she said. So if they didn't sacrifice Andromeda, the sea monster would destroy the village. And so there's Andromeda, the princess. She gets taken out to a rock. She gets chained. You can kind of see the chains here to the rock, and she's naked, waiting for Cetus, the sea monster, to come and devour her. Right? And so I think a lot of people may be feeling a similar feeling of like being stuck between a rock and a hard place, things feeling so difficult, feeling so challenging. How do we ever get through them? Of course, we also have Chiron, the wounded healer, in Cetus near Pisces as well. And so there's this big trauma wound up of just grief and loss. And like, how are we ever going to get through this? Are we going to get to the other side? And so there's hope though, because Andromeda, as she is so devastated that all hope is lost, it's not going to work out, nothing's going to be right again, she's going to be devoured, out of nowhere, Perseus, the great hero who slayed Medusa, or he received Medusa, the being who could turn, if anyone gazed upon it, it would turn them to stone. Perseus came riding in on Pegasus, and they're all right next to each other up in the sky. So it's just wonderful to have the story to tell. We just look at the constellation. So Pegasus, and they grabbed Andromeda and they carried her off to safety. And not only that, but Andromeda and Perseus, of course, fell in love and lived happily ever after. He turned her into his queen of Crete, ancient Greece, and they lived happily ever after. And so I tell this story because whenever I see a lot of planets in Cetus, we have Ceres, the planet of the mother, of nurturing. We have Saturn, the planet of the government and structure. We have Neptune, right, the planet of imagination and our dreams. And we have Chiron, the wounded healer asteroid, too small to see. That's a lot of planets in Cetus, the sea monster. And when there's so many planets here, what it can do, what it can bring up is a fear, deep fear, not only in us, but in the collective. And it affects us intuitively, emotionally, and we think that it's real. And so what I want to invite you to tune into now is the possibility that all this challenging stuff that's coming up, that's being brought up, is actually an opportunity. It's actually a gift hidden in disguise that is going to lead us to an even happier, more beautiful outcome. Because like Andromeda, she started out as a princess. Then she thought that was it. She was going to die. Life was over. And then her whole life up-leveled. The day was saved. And she not only went from being a princess, she went to becoming a queen. How powerful is that? And so I invite you, with all of these challenging energies of the planets, pushing on all the triggers and all the buttons and bringing everything up to the surface, to confront, to allow yourself to face and to feel fully what these triggers of the planet's energy is bringing up for you. Because on the other side of the trigger, on the other side of the upset, is freedom, is expansion, is opportunity, is love, right? And so no matter how challenging this time may be in the intensity, to first have the awareness of astrologically the planetary pressure gives us the insight that this is an opportunity to step into a greater level of our beingness, to confront the energy that's from the past. And there was a great healer and guide, I used to watch her videos a lot, and she would always say this wonderful thing that really helped me. She said, it's not actually that the world out there is going through anything that particularly challenging. The world out there is a mirror for what needs to come up out of you to be healed. And so it's almost like on a collective level, we are being triggered and activated so that we can purge and clear out hundreds and thousands of years of gunk, especially around religion, our bodies, spirituality, and our connection to God. And there's this big tension right now between the sun, which is and Virgo, which is the material body, the physical world, how we heal with physical things, from chiropractor adjustments to nutrition to diet to exercise to actually going to see a doctor, versus the spiritual, our connection to God. And the fact that Saturn, which represents discipline, which represents structure, is opposite the sun in the sign of spirituality, tells me that in order to create the health, to create the healing, to create what we need in our lives, we have to confront the spiritual side. And I had an experience the other night where I really wanted to go take care of the mundane physical reality. I wanted to go shopping. I wanted to go to the laundromat. I wanted to get things done, right? That's Virgo energy. It wants to accomplish the routine and the errands in order for life to flow smoothly. And nothing flowed smoothly about that. I mean, I got totally ready to go to the store. I was ready. I was geared up. I was excited. And then a series of events occurred where I wasn't able to go to the store or go do this other thing. And I was so triggered about it. And then I remembered, wow, Saturn, which is discipline, can be delays, is opposite the sun. So the sun is in Virgo, the desire to do the routine, to get things done, but it's opposite Saturn, which can be restriction or limitations or slowdowns, in Pisces. And so what that told me was the degree to which we try and mask our spiritual relationship to ourselves or to source by doing, by action, by routine, by errands, is not going to work right now. So if we're trying to distract ourselves from a deeper spiritual wound by doing, we'll be sucked back down into it one way or the other. So the invitation from the universe right now is to slow down, is to take the time out, is to allow the disruption in your forward momentum, and to confront and face deeply and fully what this time is bringing up, because it's a lot. If you think about Chiron and Pisces, the greatest wound, Pisces being our connection to source, our connection to God, our connection to something higher, how often do we work past that time that we could spend caring for that connection? How often do we put it off on the back burner? Well, Saturn in Pisces asks us for the next year to make that a priority. And that as we make that a priority, everything else is going to flow more smoothly. So I hope tonight was helpful. I hope learning about what's happening astrologically gave you some insight into yourself, into this world that we're in, into the energetic of what we're all feeling, because it's a lot. And I ask God and the universe to send you love, to send prayers to everyone on this earth who is feeling some form of deep stuff being brought up to the surface. And just saying the prayer that may all beings on this earth be happy, be healthy, and be free. And may we all transmute, transform, and clear all this density. Get it on out, get through it, get past it, and open our hearts, open the door to our highest self, our highest beingness, our highest opportunity to shine. Send you massive amounts of love. and blessings. And may we heal, may we feel, may we allow ourselves to feel so that we can, in fact, heal. And that's what these retrograde planets, that's what these slowdowns or interruptions or confusions are happening for. They're all happening for our highest and best and greatest good. And so if you find yourself wondering, how is this affecting me personally? That's why I do one-on-one readings, so that I can help people assess what area of their life are these planetary activations affecting the most deeply. For instance, I know that Pluto retrograde is my fourth house of the home. And so family and home are going to be a big transformational subject for me this year, right? And when Jupiter activates it in a polarity, it might activate that transformational energy even more deeply. Maybe you have Pluto in the seventh house, the house of relationships this year, which means, holy God, oof, that's a tricky one. You may be having relationship stuff brought up to the forefront, right? So wherever you have Pluto 0 degrees in your astrology chart, that's where is the great transformation is going to be pushing stuff up to the surface, right? Maybe you have Pluto in the 10th house, which is career. That means your career is going to undergo some major rehaul and transformation. Or maybe you have Saturn and Jupiter in your house of health, in which case your bone structure, your teeth may become the zone of healing that you need to embrace and confront this year. And so astrology is such a helpful tool to dive into the specificity of what the energy patterns of the planetary bodies are bringing up for us individually, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And we can then tune into it individually on a singular level with our own chart to tune into specifically where these aspects are affecting us personally. So if you have any questions, if you want to learn more, please comment below and like, follow, subscribe, engage with this content as it assists me to share this work with more people. And very grateful for all of you. Thank you, Jenna Love. So great to spend some time with you. And, you know, I felt so called to get on here when I saw what was going on, because I was having a challenging day myself. And I was like, gosh, it just feels so heavy and dense. And what's happening? I thought I was doing great. I thought everything was wonderful in my life. And so even if we're doing great, sometimes these planetary aspects can be so intense that it brings so much up to the surface that I wanted to share with you what those things are, so you have more clarity and you can make better decisions and feel better. I know I felt much better when I realized it's not just me. This is affecting everyone. We're in this together. And so what's the answer? What's the solution? To be aware is number one. Awareness goes so far. Now that you're aware, practice compassion, practice patience, practice having the awareness that this is happening to help us to expand and grow into our next level by allowing the deep stuff to come up and out, as opposed to repress and suppress and keep it hidden. So it's here to help us grow. It's here to help us transform. It's here to help us go to the next level. Okay, so this is an opportunity hidden in disguise in the packaging of challenge and intensity and pressure. But as I love to say, what turns a coal into a diamond is pressure. What turns a lemon into lemonade is squeezing. What allows a slingshot or a bow and arrow to stretch really far back to let go and hit the target? Pressure, intensity, challenge, right? And so we're taught life should be easy, it should be effortless. But how do we grow, right? Just like the little seedling deep down in the mud, in order to grow, it has to push through its outer covering, right? It has to explode, if you will, through a layer of resistance in order to grow. So we're in the growing cycle, my friends, and we're growing into our next level, and we are shedding skin. This is, of course, the year of the snake. This is, of course, the year of 9, which is about letting go and surrender. So the secret to this year is to let that skin shed. Let your old identity slough off of you. Let the past go. Let all that stuff go and surrender into where you're going. It may not be in front of you yet, but keep dreaming and visualizing and acting as if it's already here. And that's how you will get there faster. So much love, appreciation, gratitude for all of you. Please share any comments, any questions that you have so that I can dive deeper on any of the information I shared here. I love answering your questions. I love giving you more information, and I look forward to continue walking on this journey with you. We are in this together, and guess what? Next year is going to be amazing as we go into the year of 1, the fire horse, all about charging forwards. So get through this last density. We can do it. You can do it. High five. We got this. And so much love. Be the lighthouse. You all are miracles, full of light and love. Aloha.
Whisper in the dark, it calls my name. Through the mist and fire, I feel no shame. The night is heavy, but the stars, they glow. A map of dreams to the place I'll go. Blossom with the stars, they guide my hand. They show me the power to take my stand. Through every storm, through every flame. Blossom with the stars, I'll never be the same. The sky is a canvas of ancient light. It paints my soul in the deepest night. I hear the echoes of 1,000 cries, but my heart, it answers with fearless skies. A surge of fire, a rising tide. The stars, they teach me not to hide. Blossom with the stars, they guide my hand. They show me the power to take my stand. Through every storm, through every flame. Blossom with the stars, I'll never be the same. Skies of blue, I found the strength in the cosmic flow. Blossom with the stars, now I know.